Oscar Traynor Road is an incredibly important site in the overall Housing for All programme, in the overall programme of state construction of housing, public housing on public land. Over 800 houses, as I say, with cost rental, affordable, purchase and social. And I suppose it was hoped that we could get a rapid delivery. And I think as we move into this second term now of Housing for All, delivery has to be the key objective on every site where we have made investments. Unfortunately, Oscar Traynor Road, when I visited it on Friday, has no activity taking place on that site at the moment. The entire site is inactive. And yet, when you visit the site, the road network is laid out, the parks and the landscaping are already in place, and many of the houses are either under construction and in some cases are finished. There would appear to be an impasse at the moment between Dublin City Council's Building Control Unit and Glenveigh, who are provider of the house, and Dublin City Council, who are the client. And look, first of all, I welcome the fact that there are frequent and regular and unannounced control checks on housing development. I think it's an important step and something I think which will prevent mistakes of the past being repeated. But whatever the issue is on site, I think both Dublin City Council and Glenveigh now need to come together to ensure that construction gets back up and running, and that we have a timely and rapid delivery of the homes on this site. The Dublin City Council's Assistant City Manager for Housing yesterday gave a report to councillors, and I spoke about issues around radon barriers, around issues of dormer windows, and issues around the plaster rendering and the issue of moisture. These are all issues which I would imagine are, readily resolvable if we can get everybody around the table. And I think, Minister, at this stage, that is what we need. I suppose it's a tricky position for Dublin City Council. They're both the regulatory authority because they are they're responsible for building control, and separately they're effectively the client on the site. But it's not just Dublin City Council that are the client. It is the state, it is the department who are funding the overall development on this site. So I think there's a onus on everyone to get around the table to try and resolve whatever issues are there and to ensure that we can continue construction on the site. Because the other angle on it is that there are many people out here who didn't support this project, who voted against it when it came before us on the council, who've deliberately misconstrued the very heavily subsidised prices on the site. One of the biggest misnomers I found during the election that there were sites for sale, houses for sale on this site for €500,000. Of course, we know that those prices were before the reductions of over €100,000 in some cases, and then the further reductions when you take into account other subsidies from Housing for All, so that in many cases you had 3-bedroom homes coming in at $360,000, $370,000 and so on. And there'll be more details on that as the site goes on. That's why people want to buy this site. These are going to be affordable homes. They're in a part of the city where there isn't huge private development because it's mostly apartment development within the city. Homes are really required, and that's why we need to make sure that this site is delivered. Regardless of what happens on the site, Minister, I'd ask you that this will be a continuing priority of you and of Minister Brown, because, as I say, it's a flagship project for Housing for All. It's a flagship project for the state being involved in providing housing. And we have to make sure that it is a good example, not a bad example.
As this is my first contribution to the House, if you'd kindly indulge me just for a moment while I thank my wife, my family, my friends, supporters, Fine Gael members who have assisted me over the last number of years, and in particular during November's election, and most importantly to put on record my thanks to the people of Waterford who placed their trust in me, and the Taoiseach for appointing me as Minister of State with special responsibility for planning and local government, and I very much look forward to working with everybody in this House in a collaborative fashion over the coming years. I want to thank Deputy McAuliffe for raising this issue, a very important one, one that we've often spoken about in my previous role as a member of the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Housing, Local Government and Heritage. The development of lands at Oscar Traynor Road has the potential to provide very significant additional housing in a strategically important part of our capital city, involving the delivery of 853 homes with accompanying community, creche buildings and multi in multiple phases. Of these homes, it's intended that 343 of these will be cost rental, 343 will be social, and 170 will be affordable purchase, given a 40-40-20 10-year split. The project commenced on site, as you know, last March, and work is being undertaken by Glenveagh Developments, and considerable experience and resources are being deployed by the developer on the project, with the appointment of an assigned certifier, project architects, structural engineers, fire safety consultants, access consultants and other specialist technical advisors. All building works of this nature are subject to the requirements of both the building control regulations and the building regulations are made under the Building Control Acts 1990 as amended, in order to ensure the safety and the well-being of persons in the built environment. Dublin City Council have advised that due to the scale and importance of this large housing development, it's been prioritised for inspection by the city's building control team. During the course of several building control inspections last year, concerns regarding compliance of the works with relevant parts of the building regulations were identified, and in line with standard operating procedures were brought to the attention of site management and the assigned certifier. Given their statutory, regulatory and enforcement role under the Building Control Acts, this is a matter for the Building Control Office in Dublin City Council, and the Government and I have to respect their independent statutory role in this matter. I understand that the developers are engaging with Dublin City Council regarding resolution of these issues, and are actively working to ensure that all homes in this development will be finished to a very high standard to achieve full compliance with building regulatory standards. Building control officers will continue regular routine inspections over the coming weeks, months and through to the completion of this project to ensure adequate public oversight is provided and that the necessary confidence that the requirements of the building regulations will be achieved. I do note your comments that you said that works were no longer happening on the site. The information that I've been provided with is that other works, namely in relation to the likes of public realm of the development, have been brought forward in order to try and minimise any further delays of the overall project timeframe, and that it's still on course for delivery on a phased basis between 2025 and 2028. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy McAuliffe.
Thanks, Minister. I think the point you make in regard to the current status of the project is important, because it would appear that Dublin City Council yesterday were also not aware that no activity was taking place on site. And I think while there are some attempts, or would appear to be some attempts, to bring forward some of the public elements, a site like this should be heaving. There should be a hive of activity. There should be, hundreds of, I think over 200 people were on site at one point, and they were certainly very far from that when I visited on Friday. I suppose the important point here is that, of course, issues will arrive on a site. Of course, Dublin City Council has every right and should be making interventions, and the provider of the housing should be both reaching the client's expectations but also the statutory expectations. And all of that, I think, we should take as read and should be important. But whatever is happening on the site now would appear to be the beginning of a prolonged period of inactivity, and that is what I fear. We have to make sure that whatever is happening is resolved quickly, that we get people around the table, and that we ensure that the issues are resolved. And the reason I say that is that it's not just about this site. In my constituency now, we're starting to see more and more housing for all sites opening up. There's over 2,000 units planned right across the constituency at different levels of design and planning stage, and now we're starting to get into construction phase in many of those. And we have to make sure that where Dublin City Council is the client, and ultimately where the state and the department are providing homes, that no delays can be tolerated or allowed, and where issues arise, that they're resolved in a way that ensures the timely delivery. This is something that's very important to the community, to people who want to live there, but it's very important around value for money and state spending, and how we deliver, and the competency of someone like Dublin City Council to deliver. So I would say the department needs to do everything it can to support Dublin City Council. Dublin City Council needs to get around the table with the provider, and Glenveagh FA needs to step up and provide the solutions that it needs to provide too.
Thanks, Deputy McAuliffe. Minister.
Thank you, Deputy McAuliffe, again for raising this important issue, and I assure you that dialogue from the information I've been provided with is occurring in order to try and find a satisfactory resolution. As you know, this is a very, very important development for the area and delivery under Housing for All, and we're obviously committed to ensuring that it's going to be delivered in good time and full compliance with the building standards that will achieve a best outcome for the taxpayer and prospective homeowners and tenants, which is so important. Dublin City Council is confident that any of the compliance issues that were previously identified can be resolved appropriately without any undue delay to the overall project timeframe, and it's worth noting as well that Dublin City Council has already advertised 16 of the affordable purchase homes and remains confident that these will be delivered during the first phase of delivery before the end of this year. I also note that DCC has reconvened its Oscar Traynor Road consultative forum on the 24th of January in conjunction with the developer, and that they'll continue to engage with stakeholders, and at a meeting of public reps, which you referenced, also took place on site on the 10th of February. So I can assure you, Deputy, this is a high priority for government. We want to see these quality homes being delivered so that families and individuals can be moved into them as early as practical, in line with the time frames and obviously in compliance with full standards.